We are back. Technology and Intent, brought to you by PITME and ArabNet. We have a really special guest today, Peter Mullen. Now, before we start talking about who's Peter Mullen, this is how I know Peter Mullen. I think of the first year or so at Founder Institute, I ran into you about 70 times. Like, all over the place, everywhere. And then, for some reason, we just started talking, and, I think we're a lot alike. You're obviously better looking and smarter and better at what you do, but I've tried to emulate a lot of the stuff that you do, and that's this really special gift that you have, and that I think I possess in some way. And we want to talk about that, but tell us who's Peter Mullen and a little bit about yourself, and then we'll talk about what it is that you are a ninja at.
Well, first of all, thank you for all your kind comments.
Okay,
I have to admit there's more than a little bit of embellishment there, but I do really enjoy what I'm doing, and it sounds to me that's kind of reflected in the in the impressions that you've certainly formed. But yeah, we definitely met at the Founder Institute. I'm just who I am. I mean, I have a pretty broad, deep, many years background in enterprise selling, business development, product marketing, global channel development, etc. I spent 21 years at Hewlett-Packard, where I got some immense, highly valuable training, just in terms of, and I worked for a startup division within a big company, and we pretty much had free reign to do what we wanted to do. So I've kind of had that startup gene, if you will, from a long time. But if you want to, and I've, after leaving HP, I joined several other companies, generally always kind of charting new territory out on the forefront of big industry changes. Yep. The advent of online banking. I joined a company that was the very first to bring up the first online bank in the world. A lot of internet companies that were kind of at the forefront of big disruption trends before it was trendy, like it is now. But fast forward to today, I'm an independent business development consultant, and I've taken a lot of my experience across industry, around the world, and in Silicon Valley. And I've been in Silicon Valley, roughly 25 years. But I like to say that my focus is I like to help early-stage startups that are out of the area develop a presence here in Silicon Valley. That's one area of expertise. The other is I like to help companies that are here in Silicon Valley that need enterprise help. So, and again, early stage, before Series A, when they're ready to start building out their sales and teams and kind of really formalize. So I kind of help them, maybe get their first customers, a little structure, a little focus, that kind of thing. And right now I have contracts with two companies, in one in either camp, and then I'm an advisor for two other companies. But another thing that's really unique and kind of how we met is I use an event-driven sort of approach to meeting people, establishing and building and nurturing and maturing relationships, because as we all know, when you're doing business with anybody, it's really all about the relationship.
Stop there. You just said something funny. As we all know, but unfortunately, not all people know this. So that's partially what we're trying to educate the entrepreneurs in the Middle East. It's not cold calling. It's not emailing. It's not filling out a form online. It's you knowing someone casually, businessy, whatever, and they respect you, you respect them, you respect their time, they respect your time, and sometime along the way you bump into something that might be interesting for them, and you have their ear, and you make that connection, and that connection is based on having built that relationship over years. It's not just, oh, you're the so-and-so I know. It's years of relationship building, being consistent, being respectful with their time, and having good conversations. And I've seen you do this with so many people, and that's why this is a really important topic, because the cultural differences in the Middle East. People don't really understand what it really means to evangelize and business develop, and to really take a company like you're saying, all these kind of coming here or growing, and really efficiently moving them forward by really strategic placement and strategic connections that you make, right? That's how I define it. And correct me on any of that if I'm wrong, or add your kind of input, but that's what this is, and we need to empower the entrepreneurs in the Middle East to learn this.
Well, I mean, to your point, and emphasizing, that the relationship building is so important. I think there are many different, things that go into, developing new business, and again, I'm not going to say as we all know. I guess I meant for those that like us who are kind of already there in terms of our cycle of development or maturity in doing new business development, in the startup community. But I'll just lay out that there are probably, I would say, just a few general beliefs that I have. The first is always be authentic, okay? Yep. Don't try and be somebody else. Don't try and hoodwink anybody, and I don't know if that translates into...
I don't even know what that means.
I don't know where the term comes from, but I mean, just don't try and be somebody you're not, okay? Or be something you're not. Or don't try and come off like you don't know something, or you know something when you actually really don't, okay? Because you'll be sniffed out pretty quickly, but also if whoever it is you're trying to develop a relationship finds out that you may have done so on false pretenses, that will be the end of the relationship, perhaps forever and possibly your reputation. Right. Exactly.
And the thing that's really interesting is that you might be able to do it either by accident or not really knowing yourself with a couple people here and there, and it's not the end of the world, right? But you really can't do it on a regular basis, intentionally or unintentionally, because your reputation is really the foundation of this business development process, right? If someone doesn't respect you or your opinion or the things that you stand for, they're also not going to listen to you when you talk about the most amazing product. It doesn't matter what it is, because you don't have that attention from that person anymore. You've lost it, and so that could be really detrimental to potentially a deal that could fall apart, or something that isn't going to happen because of that. So you are literally, I think, in that sense, kind of a someone I look up to, because I have never either heard, seen, or experienced anything negative around you, what you've talked about, your name, and I've always had this admiration and respect that, if there's someone out there that can help or make a connection or introduction, or if I have a question, I can come to you. And we've never done business, right? It's not like, hey, Peter.
Not yet.
No, well, we'll get there. But Peter, I'm not selling you anything. You've given me advice. We've talked. We've hung out. But it's always been this really casual kind of relationship, right? But for some reason, again, I feel like I could come to you and ask your opinion or advice on anything. And if there's something that you think you could do to help me, you would do it, and it's vice versa, right?
Absolutely.
And again, we've known each other for 3-4 years, and with no intention really in the beginning of doing anything, but it's just we kept bumping into each other, and we should probably carpool one of these days. You live in the city?
I live in Sausalito, which is just north of San Francisco.
I'm in the South Bay. But the point is, so I want to talk about a little bit about what you're on to now, because I use it, Bizzabo. And it's really kind of, for us networkers, it's like a turbocharged tool that helps people, connect with people at conferences. And so I'll tell you, that problem existed for a long time, and nobody really was able to crack that nut in an elegant, kind of cool fashion. And I think these guys have done it. And so that's why I know when you talk about it or you wear the T-shirt, you do it because you believe in it. You are a believer of Bizzabo being a tool, right, that you can use, and it helps you, right?
Yeah, but back to the point of just in the previous question, and that is, what are the elements in order to start and build a relationship? I mentioned being authentic, but also, again, to this question is, have something or have a product that you do truly believe in, you're truly passionate about. That's another thing. When you're engaged with another person, is always to be conversational. Okay, don't come off like a pitch man or a hard sell or just start in your face kind of thing. Another thing is to ask some questions, and not yes or no questions, but open-ended questions, which will elicit more of a dialogue. And again, just always be genuine, always be authentic. You generally want to get to know this person. You generally want to understand as much as you can in a very short period of time about what's on their mind, what's bothering them, what are their pain points. What do they want to see happen in the in the next iteration of their particular product or service or whatever. Sure. And to the extent that you can, just have done your homework, okay? You know something about this person. You know something about their company. You know something about the industry. You know something about what's happening in the industry and the struggles this person is dealing with. Or perhaps they're hitting on all cylinders, everything's going great, and then you just kind of validate that. Yeah, I see you guys are really killing it out there. So, congratulations. I've been watching you guys for quite some time. Again, I mean, it sounds kind of maybe trite, but it's genuine. I mean, it really is true. So I've kind of used all that, this approach, but also my background, an extensive background in technology and selling or promoting business solutions to business problems. And I do it by going to events. I actually attend about 10 to 12 a week, and I'm not kidding. That's about 2 a day. But I find that it really enables to actually meet somebody first so that you have some context around some follow-up. Should there need to be any follow-up. And I found this to be a really, really effective way to quickly get involved in opportunities than buying a list and cold calling against it. Okay, and going through the traditional funnel process. So, you mentioned one of the companies, and again, we're trying to keep all this tied together, but one of the companies that I'm currently doing business development work, it's a Tel Aviv company called Bizibo. I was introduced to them by Yuri Rabinovich, who runs Startup Monthly here, kind of an incubator program for startups to help them grow with certain geographic focus. But he introduced me to these people because they wanted a presence in Silicon Valley. And because Yuri knew me and that I have a pretty big presence here and the ability to develop contacts that he introduced me and we got in touch. Well, when they came over to visit here in the U.S., it's just kind of an anecdotal story. As we said, we were going to meet at a coffee shop in Palo Alto, but there was an event over at Stanford, a really engaging speaker who had written some books on entrepreneurialism, and I said, "Hey guys, instead of going to our meeting, how would you like to go over to this event that I think is really cool and you might like it?" So we did. We went over there before we even had the meeting. And then after, we had the meeting on the Stanford campus. So just a quick little aside about, kind of help validate with them about, how my approach to events and meeting new people, but also being able to observe pretty interesting content. But what I discovered about these guys and their company, and I checked out their product, and I really, really liked it. And
which is important, right?
Yes.
Because I'm sure you say no to a lot of people who ask you to work for them, because if you don't actually love the product or like it or want to use it, you won't just do it because it's a gig or a contract.
Personally, I have to really like the product. I can't just sell it if I think it's moderately cool or whatever. No, and I use this. I use it extensively. So that is a very hard requirement for me. I have to believe in the product because I can't sell it if I don't truly believe in it, because then I wouldn't be authentic. And that's just a core belief of mine. So back to the story is we hit it off. I really like the guys. I like the product. Just everything, in our conversation just led us to, wanting to start slow. And they were kind of concerned about, hey, how do we get this thing started? And I said, well, why don't we just start with a temporary 3-month engagement and kind of see how we like working together, see what kind of traction we can get in Silicon Valley, and they were like, yeah, that's great. You know, we're not trying to boil the ocean right away, or you know, start off on a long-term contract when we don't even know whether we're going to like working together or not. So we did that, and you know, ended up following through and you know, established a good basis for working together. But the really cool thing is, and because what Bizzabo does is, it is a conference or event networking app which gives the attendees a really powerful tool. Well, twofold. It gives the attendees a very powerful tool to view and see who's coming to an event. It's fed by LinkedIn profiles, so it gives attendees the ability to view people's profiles and kind of develop a target list of people to talk to when a big event is coming up. Now, at the same time, it also gives the event promoters or organizers a very powerful tool to socialize the event, because when a person says they're going to the event, they have the ability to push out to all their social networks, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, that they're going to this event. They've logged in via Bizzabo, and again, it's just a way for event promoters to get the word out.
And I personally, just to validate it, I've used it 3 times in the last 2 weeks, and every time someone's hit me up and said, hey, I really like what you're doing, let's talk. And that's kind of cool, because that connection may have never happened. And by the way, you know and I know that there have been many attempts at these conference apps, and most of them have sucked. You know, and they look like crap, and I haven't seen a good one. So this is the first one that I actually am using, and it's partially because you told me about it. If someone else had told me about it, maybe, kind of, sort of, you know. But because you were just really a believer, you turned me into a believer. And so now I actually use it, and I think it's really a cool product. So we want to talk about 2 things. One, you know, we do lessons through stories, and I don't know if you've seen our board, but you have to pick a topic and tell a personal story, ideally that you've never told in public, about one of these topics. And so have you had a chance to pick one?
Well, I was looking at a couple of them look interesting. Symbiotic relationships looks good.
You can pick whatever you want.
Hey, or sweet, we have a deal. That's a good one.
Like
I actually hear that a lot.
I think you have a PhD in that, don't you? Like a Peter Mullen degree of business development.
Well, let's just talk about symbiotic relationships, and I would like to maybe fall back on the Bizzabo story again, because it's current. I think it's relevant, but it's also very interesting in terms of, you know, some of the finer things in the relationship, which aren't always don't always come out right out of the gate.
Or they're not obvious.
Yeah, they're not obvious right out of the gate, but they kind of come up down the road. And there is a possibility, depending on how well the relationship has been built or developed, how solid it is, what kind of respect everybody has for each other, then there are things that actually can derail the relationship. And I'll cite a couple of very specific examples with this one. So Bizzabo had not really launched their product in the U.S. They'd been launched in Europe and around the rest of the world, and done upwards of 1,000 to 1,500 events, including the Dublin Web Summit, AdTech London, Pioneers Festival. So some really big name, and the Grow Conference in Canada, so, you know, which is Reg's event.
Reg's on the show.
So so they had a presence. So they wanted to come over. They wanted a presence in Silicon Valley, and so we contracted to work together. Well, part of the contract involved not just trying to get them used in events, but also to try and get them evangelized through various social media gurus and such, you know, Robert Scoble, you know, guys like that, but also to give them input, give them the Silicon Valley perspective on their app, on their strategy, on their messaging, all that kind of stuff. And that's where it can get kind of dicey, because depending on how tightly or how proud they feel about their app, you never know whether you're going to be hurting them or helping them.
Exactly.
Okay, sometimes there's a saying in Silicon Valley is don't tell them don't tell me what I want to hear. Tell me what I need to hear.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me what I want to hear. Yes, your product is beautiful. I love it. You guys are doing a great job. That's not really much help when you're trying to crack a new market that might have its own local nuances or requirements. And so we had to make some changes in terms of user interaction, user experience, some finer things. So how about messages are passed back and forth in the app, about their tagline, which was "Don't be shy, be social." Well, there are no shy people in Silicon Valley. Okay, so I mean, it's kind of like it's pretty obvious. So I just made some suggestions around that. They have a little cartoon thing, which again may play well in Israel or it may play well in Europe, but we're not big on cartoons here in Silicon Valley unless it's like the extra normal guys or something like that. So again, it's just. But every time I've made suggestions about making some changes or alterations in their strategy, in their message, or product features, or things like that, they were very thankful to me. They were very appreciative.
They know you know what you're talking about. That's the bottom line. You've seen, Peter. How many companies have you seen in the last however many years? Can you count that high?
At least a million.
A million, right? It's pretty much, right? Thousands.
I come across a lot of
thousands.
I come across a lot of companies. Yes, I would say easily thousands. I mean, I go to hackathons on the weekend for fun, and a lot of it is really just looking for really cool ideas and cool companies, and I just love helping entrepreneurs get off the ground, and I do so unconditionally. I don't expect anything in return. I just love helping the community.
That brings up another point. Guess what? We are using Vidcaster, and who was the person that reminded me that we should use Vidcaster at the Crunchies?
Well, I think that would have been me.
You know what I mean? Like, but and I've known Kieran for years, right? But I have so many things in my head that. At that point, I was like, okay, WordPress, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, you're like, dude, why aren't you using Vidcaster? I'm like, ding! And so, thank you for that. Vidcaster is awesome. So we want to talk about what it is we're going to do with Peter Mullen, or an idea I have. And again, it's just an idea.
Okay.
So, we're running an Indiegogo campaign at Indiegogo/PITME, where we're trying to raise $250,000 to fund 10 companies to come here. Now, here's the challenge I'm going to put out there. If you have a company that makes it through our selection process and becomes one of the 10 companies, and Peter Mullen actually likes your product, we are going to pay you to be their head business development person for a contract period if you like the product and you believe in it. So you can take a look at them and say they all suck, or hey, I really like this one. And if that's the case and you find one that you actually like, we would love to have you be the person on the ground for them, because I think there's really no one better that I know that could do something like that. So if you're up for it, this is probably going to be in about 4 to 5 months maybe, when the campaign is over and we've done the selection process. They're going to come here, and I'll send you some information ahead of time, but we would be honored to have you mentor and teach and coach and help one of our companies that we are trying to help, and give it some thought, think about it, but that would be awesome, I think.
Well, I mean, it's pretty easy when you lay it out that way.
Okay,
you certainly give me a lot of wiggle room there,
right.
But how could I say no to something like
good.
that? If I love the product.
Right.
I mean, it's like,
that's a
duh,
challenge.
okay?
That's a challenge to the companies to really come through with a good product, good deck, and we're going to do the best that we can to pick good ones, but the idea really is we want to help these companies.
Well, keep in mind it's a combination of things. It's not just about the good product, or it's not just about the good deck. But it's also more often than not about the actual founder or the founding team. I've heard so many times in VC pitches or funding pitches or how to pitch a VC or whatever. They more often than not, or most often, say they're investing in the people, not necessarily the product. Because so many times the product changes, it iterates, it pivots, whatever, or it dies. But just the fact that the entrepreneurs or the founders who are the real heroes here, you know, they're the ones that are toiling, building products, going for funding, trying to find developers, trying to find customers. I mean, literally just slogging through the muck day in, day out, 24/7. So, you know, quite honestly, many times they need all the help they can get, and that's a big reason why I like to really just put myself out there, offer whatever I can, not expecting anything in return, and then if there's an opportunity for us to discuss about doing a biz dev role or something like that, then great. But you know, it is a combination of things. But again, to your point or to your suggestion, I'm definitely on board. I'd love to you know, be a part of the program, formally or informally. I've got some cycles now.
Informally you already are, because I bug you all the time. So.
That's true.
Anyway, Peter, thank you for coming. We have a little something.
Oh, wow.
It's a PITME t-shirt.
Cool.
Because I know you love wearing t-shirts.
I do.
And we're broke and don't have a budget, so.
And this is a small one. It'll
we'll
it'll be a muscle shirt.
We'll
so
get you a bigger one. No problem.
I'll wear it like Red Snodgrass.
Awesome.
What do you think?
Yes,
huh?
that would be sexy. So anyway, Peter, thanks
Great.
for coming.
Thank you so much, man. This has been fun.
We'll see ya. Peace.